Hey YouTube, hey YouTube, hey. So, these are going to be my thoughts on DC's Legends of Tomorrow Season 1. I'm going to try and keep this spoiler free because I want to sell the show to you. I mean, these are my thoughts. Form your own thoughts. Watch the first 3 episodes, and if you want to stick with it, do. If not, no harm done. But these are my thoughts on the series as a whole. I've watched the final episode, and now I can look at it as, as a finished product. So the premise of this show, it's not based on any one particular comic book storyline or any one particular comic book. It's just the guys who are running the Flash and Arrow were like, we've got some really high profile actors playing a lot of great superheroes and so on right across the board, but they're in other people's shows. Let's give them their own show. Let's have something fun and exciting and just new and fresh. And they do that. The premise is, in a nutshell, it's superheroes travel through time, which is a great premise. Just in and of itself, the imagination, the fun factor attached to that sentence is great, and the show works to live up to that because they know this is a bonkers premise. They know this is something fantastical. This is miles away from how grounded Arrow tries to be, but they get that. The reason behind it, the premise is that the immortal madman, mortal villain from DC Comics, Vandal Savage, who is a caveman in the comics, but in this series he's from ancient Egypt. It's a whole thing. In by the year 2166, he has risen to power, completely conquered the entire world, and killed the wife and child of the show's protagonist, Rip Hunter, a time master played by Arthur Darvill, aka Rory from Doctor Who. Yes, yes. Who wears a long brown coat and everything. Rip Hunter then proceeds to go back to the year 2016, gather a ragtag group of both heroes and villains from The Flash and Arrow, and says, "Come with me, we're going to save the world, otherwise the world is doomed." He has selfish reasons for doing it, he has impulsive reasons for doing it, but it is also for the greater good because it means the character of Vandal Savage, the megalomaniac that he is, never rises to power. So they can't just go back and kill him at birth, that would damage the time stream too much, so they have to appear at key points in his timeline in history when he appears and try and thwart him there before he can amass power too much. So it's an interesting concept. They travel throughout time. We go to the Wild West, we go to World War II, we go to the 70s, we go to the 80s. We go to the future a few times. Sometimes we're stuck in space. They have in Star Trek terms, they have what's called a bottle episode, which is just one where they're just on the ship. Um, there's one where they go to the idyllic 50s. It's great. It's a fun show. It's fresh. It's got so much ambition. The budget. I heard they blew the budget 4 times in the first 4 episodes. So you can see that because it's such a big show. I mean, it's probably bigger than it needs to be. If you watched any of the Marvel Netflix shows, you watch them and you think, we could probably shave 2 episodes off Daredevil or Jessica Jones. I mean, stuff is already heightened. Let's not drag it out. Let's capitalize on it. That after a while it does get that. This season's 15 episodes long, which is fine, but there are 1 or 2 episodes where you think this they could have done without doing this. They are doing the Doctor Who thing, and this show is very both overtly and subtly inspired by Doctor Who, where they're having 2-part episodes where you're like, does this need to be a 2-part episode? Come on, Doctor, just do it already. I mean, I wouldn't mind if they knocked it down to like 10 episodes next year because the show is fun. It's a great show going in, but the more you watch it and the more you're like, well, this doesn't make sense. How does, it's one of those things where time travel in movies works for the best part because you aren't really given too much time to work out the ramifications of what's going on. And not until you're going out of the cinema, you're like, wait a minute, but if he went back in time to do this, then doesn't that have an effect on? It's fine, it's a brief thing. You're caught up in the story, you're engrossed, and that's fine. As a 15-hour weekly show, you kind of have the time to pick holes in certain storylines or characteristics, and that pulls you out of it. does. However, the cast is its saving grace. We've got Brandon Routh as the Atom, as the delightful Ray Palmer, who's just this big old Boy Scout, literally a Boy Scout. He talks about his badges at one point. Arthur Darvill, as I said, doing his best Nathan Fillion by way of Doctor Who, the Doctor impression. We've got what else? We've got Sarah Lance from Arrow, the Black Canary that everybody liked. We've got Victor Garber playing Professor Martin Stein, aka that part of that's deep cuts, man. That's an old school theatre actor. That's Broadway style. And we've got the Prison Break reunion that started in The Flash, that's carried over into this show with Wentworth Miller and Dominic Purcell. Wentworth Miller, by the way, is acting his ass off, but it's not an Oscar-worthy performance, but he's great because he knows it's a comic book show, so he plays it a little bit, not camp, but kind of tongue-in-cheek. His dialogue is very extended. His surname is Snart. It's Leonard Snart, so he gives it snark, and it works because he's just, everything he says is laced with sort of contempt, but not in a hateful way, just kind of in a I'm looking down at you in a condescending way. Just everything he says, and it works. It bloody works. More so the fact that this guy is a crook, a common criminal. That those two are on the team. They stay on the team for their own reasons. Those reasons change as things go on, and they're worth that's worth sticking around for. What else have we got? We've got the Hawkman and Hawkgirl from the comics. So if you're Hawkman and Hawkgirl fans, they're in there. They're not the best part of it. They are linchpins of the story, because the narrative depends so heavily on them for reasons I won't get into. But they're not the best part. They're not what it's worth watching for. There are some nice little cameos along the way. There's one episode where they go to Star City in the year 2066, and it's a great little callback to The Dark Knight Returns, because we've got Green Arrow with his goatee and one arm, and I loved that, and that made me, I was pleased with that. So those are my thoughts on Legends of Tomorrow. They ended the season on a bit of a cliffhanger, in a bit of a "it's the kids, Marty," kind of thing, with another deep DC hero. It's tied to time travel. It's not who you think. I was hoping it was going to be a certain DC hero. It's not him. It's somebody else. But anyway, those are my thoughts on Legends of Tomorrow. If you haven't watched this show, like I said, watch the first 2 episodes and just make your mind up from there. And if you want to carry on, carry on. If not, well, no harm done. But there you go. Those are my thoughts. If you like this vid, please click like, subscribe, view, share, on all the usual jazz, and I'll see you later on YouTube. Goodbye.